I know the term for that, especially in education. We love to make sure we're very specific in the terms like differentiation. But I realize, and in my experience and in this role as well, differentiation sometimes just very rarely exists for adult learners. So one of the things that I just like to talk about is just intentional teaching, intentional, impactful. When you're very intentional with how your instruction is designed, layers of differentiation is embedded in there organically. So for our session today, this is the agenda that we have. The slide deck will be uploaded. Both of my slide decks will be uploaded this afternoon. And we're going to really go through differentiation, challenges about differentiation, specifically speaking in the adult ed field. Then we're going to talk about exactly what differentiation looks like, because a lot of the times that's where, doesn't matter if you're a brand new teacher or you're a veteran teacher, if someone was to come in and observe your classroom, observe your program, observe even your onboarding, I want you to be able to understand exactly what that person is looking for, to be able to check the box and go, I have seen and evidenced differentiation happening here. I'm going to go through exactly, after we talk about what it looks like, how you can do that. So you can see what it looks like. I always like to flip the learning. Come on in, you're right on time. You're right on time. And then lastly, we're going to really dive into evaluating the needs of differentiation and just going in and seeing exactly how we're going to address those. Although I say this, and even if you were in my session before last, you'll know I am all about participation. This is going to be interactive. We're going to be talking. It's going to be discussion. If you don't want me to talk to you or with you, I understand, because it is 8 a.m. and I'm a lot in the morning. Feel free to dive over and just let me know, listen, I'm in my sensory bubble right now. Don't come this close, Brittany. And I got you. The agenda might kind of look like this, but you'll see I'm going to even differentiate this session. So this is what I want you to do. And yes, this was originally in a writing assignment, but hearing how she asked, are we going to have to write? I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to take that away. So what I did, well, this is actually two. I will say this deck was created before they assigned me an 8 a.m. slot, right? So I was thinking in the afternoon, everybody would be ready to actually engage, but we'll instead talk it through. The activity that we were going to do as a warm up, as a bell ringer, if you will, a session starter, was we were going to use the word differentiate to create an acrostic poem. This first thing that we were going to dive into, and I hope, and I already see it happening, I was going to get the question, I don't even know what an acrostic poem is. What in the world is an acrostic? And I was hoping, we would break off into groups, and there's always one or two in the room that's like, the acrostic, M, the A, M. So the acrostic is here, where you just have the, and there was even an example, but I know marketing had to pull it out because I didn't have imaging rights. I know. But an acrostic is when you just simply put a word next to each letter. The bonus challenge, because again, in every group, there's always someone who already knows what the acrostic is. I'm like, you know what? How about a mnemonic device then? Then there's, in this case, many of the educators go, oh yeah, that one, I got this. My dear Aunt Sally. Yeah, you have those ways where you can remember exactly maybe the order of planets or the order of multiplication division using those mnemonic devices. And then we were going to figure out who was the artist, the team artiste. We're going to break into group, and we were going to make an image using the word differentiation or differentiate for inspiration. I'm not going to have you do this. I know it sounds like, but at 8 a.m. up and moving around, getting in groups, let's just relax and talk it through, right? So for those of you that are at home, sitting in front of your screen, though, with your coffee in hand, comfortable in your PJs, you have the assignment. But what I was hoping that you would gather from this is just immediately starting off something as simple as a warm-up, that you're able to offer levels of differentiation to your learners. You're able to address different learning styles. And one thing that I love about differentiation, everybody has a superpower. Everybody has a super strength. Everyone has differing abilities. And what I love is really allowing that student to showcase their best abilities. That artist team, the ones who can't draw, they're like, that's fine. I can write letters and put a word next to it. The ones who are like, oh no, I draw for fun. they can make this image and they don't have to worry about, I don't even have to know what an acrostic poem is. And then we have this middle level here. There's always that student in the room that, oh, you come on in, Vivian. There's always that student in the room that wants to go, what's next? This wasn't enough. I've already finished this, or I've already done this, or really I could do this in my sleep. That's okay. We have this bonus area for you all that finish early, that feel like I want to make best use of my time. Right immediately from the start, I want you to start getting into the mind frame of what differentiation could look like and absolutely understanding how simple even something like this could be. In my experience, one of the easiest ways I could differentiate in my lesson was offering our learners choices. A lot of the times, the population that we serve are the underserved. They don't have a lot of choices sometimes in life. They don't get to pick. And even when they do pick, a lot of times they're judged by the choices they make, but that's because no one knew the options they were choosing from. So in differentiation, one of the easiest, and I always like to say easiest, but I understand it's more work creating instruction, but I'll say one of the lower level tiers of being able to differentiate, put it right back in your learner's hands. Give them the choice to choose where their strength lies and allow your instruction to be differentiated that way. So in defining differentiation, I wanted to talk about specifically what is differentiated instruction. Whoops. Before I give this, I will, because there's no writing in this, I will ask participation over presentation. In your small group, you don't have to get up, make your group a group of two, make your group a group of three. If you want to make this one large group and turn these chairs into a circle, listen, they can fix it after our session. But I would want you to get together and talk through, I'll give you about 3 or 4 minutes of, in your mind, if you had to define specifically just instruction, what does differentiated instruction look like? How is it different from just straightforward instruction? In your group, just go ahead and define, come up with your own definition of differentiated instruction. Spoiler alert, I'm going to ask somebody to speak, so maybe y'all want to select a group leader or two too while you're there. Get, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, to be amongst educators. Ain't nothing like it. Ain't nothing like it. I want to hear from you all. What is differentiated instruction? I told you I was going to call in the groups. Y'all were supposed to elect a leader. Thank you. Ready. Ooh, I love that. Did you hear the very first word he said too? Thank y'all so much for sharing. Recognizing it. Acknowledging it is the tough one, right? Because sometimes we don't even really want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about those differing abilities, differing depths of knowledge levels. How much easier is it for me to stand in front of this room and do some assumptive teaching, right? And assume that all of you knew what an acrostic was? How much easier was it to do that versus actually acknowledge in the room, there are going to be some people who don't know the word acrostic. I need to be able to make sure I'm acknowledging, addressing that first, so they're not getting up and walking out of the room and going, this ain't for me because she ain't even talking my language. Please. Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to talk about that too. And good point too that she made about is it because I'm away from the mic? Oh, absolutely. The first thing that was said was making sure that we're recognizing those differentiations, those different learning styles, and also even addressing those different depths of knowledge to start. Additionally, we had someone share that when they actually train their volunteers who are typically non-teachers originally, they're having those folks go ahead and evaluate their learning style first. So that way they can really understand about incorporating all of the learning styles in their teaching. There's a hand up over here as well, and I'm going to make sure I repeat the answer, or does this work? There was a hand up over here. Maybe not. I made it up in my head. I wish there was a hand up over here. Uh,
Because my fabulous team, we're piggybacking on you because we talked about the various modalities of instruction. So taking the same content, being able to scaffold it up and down, as well as the recognizing and leveraging various modalities of instruction and with the student in mind, though, with the student in mind. So that's what he's talked about.
Thank you so much for sharing. And what I've heard from them, which is one thing that I'm extremely passionate about, student-based learning. And everything that you do, student first. Notice they didn't say content first. They didn't say math first. They didn't say reading first. They didn't even say literacy first. And I'm a huge advocate for literacy. They said student-based learning. Oh, thank you for sharing so much.
So great comments.
Please.
So differentiating instruction is providing options or choices for content, product, and instruction delivery. Another one of our virtual attendees, meaning adaptations in assignments to meet different students where they are.
Oh, I love that. Meeting students where they are. I love that. The definition that we've come up with here that's listed here, but I actually prefer the ones you all gave. But this is the one that we came up together as a group in a PLC that was done 3 years ago. And that differentiated instruction is the intentional planning and presentation of instruction to promote the progress and performance of a diverse group of learners. And this is, and there, it's very intentional, the words that are bolded here, that's intentional planning, setting forth with an actual plan, then implementing that plan, making it all the way in every thread of your instruction to specifically promote, to empower, to promote, to move forward the performance and progress of a diverse group. And I love to heavily weigh on this diverse group because in K through 12, I'm one of those few subject areas. I taught Spanish. I had the privilege of serving learners at all different levels. I didn't get to pick and choose my students. I didn't get to have AP students only or IB students only. And the thing about Virginia High School is every student is required to take a foreign language to graduate. That includes students with differing abilities. That even includes students in self-contained classrooms, every single one of them. It has been a privilege of mine in adult education to be able to serve a diverse population, people who all have diverse backgrounds, point of origins, diverse sources of motivation. And I even like to think of all of them have diverse goals. I've never had a group of students where every single one of them was like, I'm here to get my GED in math and be done. I've never had that. And it is a privilege for us to be able to explore all these diversities and really dive into it. Thank you everyone in here for sharing, and also thank you everyone in the chat. So why? Why do we need differentiation? Believe it or not, looking at me, I'm a plus size woman. Okay. Whenever I go into the store and I see one size fits all, the year fits all. One size fits all doesn't work. One size fits most still doesn't work. Because guess what? On top of being plus this way, I'm plus this way too. So even if I can fit it this way, I don't want to have the shorty shorts on. Teaching the middle also doesn't work. Designing that instruction that just goes, well, I've got about the middle group, that doesn't work. The task that we've been giving, especially in adult education, is to make sure, and you'll hear me say this again and again, to serve the underserved. These are the students who maybe were inside of their classrooms. They never made too much noise. They weren't in too much trouble. So guess what? They never got noticed because they were kind of lost in the middle. They kind of got those C's until those C's became D's until they stopped showing up because no one ever noticed them. That's what happens when you teach towards the middle. You miss those outliers. It is our privilege to serve hear this from you all. And no. It stopped sharing my screen for some reason. No. Usually the Wi-Fi was on the table. Oh, it did it again. It kicked out. Okay, good. Okay, perfect.
Okay. So for me, I never got the really talks too much, but I was also theater major, all of those things. Then I became the speech teacher and trying to get people to present and get their opinions across. So there we go.
I love it. I love to hear something. Here you all. Do you want to repeat yours again, Elizabeth? I'm going to come back to you.
Oh, I said that I'm not an instructor, but I'm the director of professional development. However, the talking too much, I was a corporate trainer that traveled all over the world training.
I got talks too much a lot on my report cards, and I also got gets out of seat and helps other students. I know. I know.
I'm the budget manager, so my vocabulary is very limited. When they come to me, I say no, and then they have to talk to me to justify.
I love that. Anyone else?
I don't know if they said talk too much, but they always talked about me as a leader. In 6th grade, I was a leader of the student council. I thought that was so cool. I learned Robert's Rules of Order. And then I don't know your name, but the person who's taught speech, I was in Toastmasters. Does anyone know Toastmasters? And taught went through that, taught executives in Europe how to present in English. And now I'm the director of program development, training volunteers and telling them how to teach. And subbing, I get to sub sometimes when they don't show up. So.
Where, right? Absolutely. Love you all sharing so much with me at 8 a.m.
I never had the note that talks too much. I think part of it stems from, I was born here, but Polish was my first language because my parents are immigrants. So I clearly remember struggling in kindergarten and one of the kindergarten teachers being kind of mean when I asked questions. But I'm okay now. It's not a therapy session. Yeah. But I ended up in ESL, and now I'm a curriculum development specialist at a labor union for the classes and training that we offer union members.
I love moments like this, and I know it might seem, but how often do you all get to come together nationally with other like-minded folks and really just collaborate, right? So anytime there's an organic conversations happen, you're going to see, I'm gonna let them happen. I'm big on that. The reason I asked this question, because can you believe that they used to tell my mother that I talk too much? My most fun full circle moment is my very first year of going into teaching. We came in for the brand new teacher training, right? Your first year teaching, you have to go through all that specialized, go a week early, go through all that specialized training. And I sit down my first day in professional development as a brand new Spanish teacher for the poorest school in Virginia, no, the poorest county in Virginia, high school in the poorest county in Virginia. And I'm sitting there with the bright smile on, ready to go. And in walks the PD deliverer, the host of the professional development, and it is my high school Spanish teacher. The whole training stopped and she looked and she goes, I knew it. Knew it. She goes, I knew when I taught you. I knew it. And I was like, yeah, that full circle moment of you used to tell me I talk too much. And you want to know what's funny? The reason I learned Spanish, she was like, if you're going to keep talking, at least do it in Spanish. Fine. I became fluent by senior year just so I could. So here's the thing, and as I already mentioned, when we start thinking about things that are traditionally viewed as a negative or maybe something else, we need to really reframe our mind to think, is that person's superpower I'm looking at? Is that their ability? That talker of the room that loves to talk and loves to share, should I have them lead a group discussion once a week? Wouldn't it be nice for peers, instead of having to hear from me all the time, to hear from one of their folks? Maybe this person could be the moderator between different group discussions and moving around. So I really always like to think in terms of differentiation. If you really are focusing in, you're able to hone in on some of those superpowers and skills. This is a quote I really like, and it's, if you've been in education for any amount of time, you've heard the old adage, teaching to the middle. While the concept in theory is based on inclusivity, in practice, it's very exclusive. As with most things, students fall across all ranges on the learning spectrum, and very few actually land in the middle. Something that you all are familiar with, something that you all have seen again and again. Before I move into exactly why it's challenging, when we're examining the why of differentiation, and that's why I talked about, well, who talks too much and looking into the why. One of the things I used to always wear was a t-shirt that said, remember why you started. Because absolutely your students are even going to question why they're there some days. There's going to be days where you're questioning, why am I doing all this differentiation? Why am I doing all this work? And it's for that one student that got ignored time and time again. It's for that young learner that speaks Polish mainly, but is trying his best to learn English and is getting ignored again and again by other teachers. That's why you do what you do, because you all chose to pick one of the toughest professions ever and one of the toughest and most underserved industries ever. And that's why you do what you do. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend and be Pollyanna like there aren't challenges that come with differentiation. We know why we do it, but then we face these challenges that come up. And the first, there's just a vast spectrum of adult needs. So many adults need so many different things. And we understand, I'm going to forget the exact name of it, but there's that hierarchy of needs. Y'all, one of you all educators, there you go. It's like one of you educators is throwing it at me, but there's that hierarchy of needs. Students can't learn if they're hungry. And the amount of times I've had to actually walk, and yes, I am big on community involvement. So I put my tennis shoes on and walked to social services and said, my adult learners are hungry. I can't expect them to use their EBT benefits to feed their kids and themselves while they sit in this class. They don't get enough. Who can get me some snacks? Sure. I believe it. Mm. Yeah. Excellent. Right? Fairlife paid her to say that. No. Uh, and on top of being hungry, what about transportation needs, childcare needs? I was actually able to share in our session yesterday. One of the things that, and I get it, I'm about to get to this next points because I understand it's a challenge. But one of the things that our Jen shared about and was able to talk about in her PLC was one teacher made an activity of when you miss class, put an emoji as the reason. So some people were putting up the babies each time, childcare. Someone was putting up a little car each time. I don't have transportation. And they were doing this and it built this community. They were able to kind of make some solutions within their own community. But I liked her sharing that because I said, you know, we had the same unique issue where childcare was just non-existent for us. We just didn't have that. And you'll see there's a lack of resources. There's a lack of those stakeholder partnerships. There's a lack of that. We actually ended up having to call on former students, one of which we knew wanted to be starting her own daycare, be in childhood, early childhood and early childhood education. And we just asked her, what do you think about volunteering to watch some of the students? She was in love. We paid for her to get her little fingerprinting, her FBI background check, because she's dealing with babies, right? She's dealing with people's kids. We came in, got her fingerprinted. Every single class, she was there watching those children in the exact same room where we were teaching. And then she started to invite her friends. Hey, have you been a part of this class? And if they didn't need the class, do you want to help me watch these kids? They'll pay for your background check. And now she used that experience to build her own daycare. And some of those students that were bringing her their children, they're now enrolled in her daycare. And I do understand that that lack of resources exists. And the main one, who has the time to walk across the street? Because if you don't have a Brittany in your building who's going to say, hey, y'all hold on, y'all read on your phones, do something, I'm going to walk across the street right now. Who has time for that? I have to make sure that they hit 12 hours before I can even enroll them. At the 40-hour mark, I got to make sure I'm retesting them. Who has time to walk across the street and go try to figure out a stakeholder? That takes planning, development, and instruction inside of all of that already has to occur in your time. With these challenges, and I know they see a hand raised, Laura, I'm not going to skip it. With these challenges, we really had to start diving into what could we do to meet these challenges? And I do want to hear from you all, and I know I heard from you a little bit, and I want to hear from others. What have you all done currently to meet some of these challenges? Please, oh, let me, Mike.
So we're from Harris County Department of Ed. First of all, we serve 6,000 to 7,000 students. One of the largest programs in Texas, and it's great how you're sharing this because, you know, for our ESL students, they have no knowledge that these services or support services or wraparound services or whatever we want to call it is available to them and for them. And so what we do is at the onset, when they come in for registration and orientation, we have intentionally provided career navigators. At first, we didn't have career navigators, you know, because that also, a lot of people think about career navigators as aligning them to just careers and, you know, job ready and all of that other stuff. But because I've been boots on the ground with collaboration to provide these students these wraparound services or support services, we call them, at the onset, we do something similar. They don't have stickers, but we just have a very simplified one pager. They upload that. We give them a QR code, and it's like it has about 10 different types of support services and needs that they would check off, and that comes back to us or to our we call them program assistants. That actually does registration orientation, and we now differentiate or designate, okay, you know what, Goodwill, you've got the gas cards and transportation means. So here you go. And it's been so productive. We started it this year. Food bank. I mean, they have so much to give away. And T-Mobile, we give out laptops and we give out hotspots. And so there are partners out there that's willing to collaborate because they have to meet their quota of actually giving back to the community so they can write it off. I just kind of learned this because of the business aspect of it. But if you don't go and be boots on the ground and start speaking to partners, and I'm talking about T-Mobile because they're global. So if you want, please reach out to them. They gave us 500 Chromebooks and about 1,000 hotspots. So they're willing to work with programs. Their food bank, they also have a designated amount of food pounds or kgs or whatever that they have to give out every month to community partners. That's another source of food. Childcare. I like your example of childcare, but at the onset, we ask them, what do you need? And then after providing them their needs, then we tell them, all right, because we're really big on retention and outcomes. We say, okay, now that you have what you need, you have to pledge to be in class and not have more than 3 absences because their needs are met. And then we top it off with a signing day, which is, I talk about that, which once they go through the program, they go through workforce IETs, or CTs, as some programs call it in the country, but then they sign their employment letters or internship letters at signing day.
Thing that I love, I'm gonna pass this mic right over to you. I'm gonna walk over to you. You don't get up. One thing that I love that they just talked about, and yeah, I'm a little biased because I used to live in Houston. I love Harris County, but one thing they talked about, differentiating onboarding. Have you all thought about that? Not your instruction, they're differentiating their onboarding. They are meeting that student where they are, providing those services, asking those questions, and differentiating how they onboard students based on the situation. So that is people might be.
Hi, my name's Emily and I work at Penn State, and we have several direct service grants. But anyway, I don't know if this ties into this, but one of the things that we've recently started with our students is we have like a free table. And what happens is some of them will go to the food banks and they get food that they don't eat. You know, it might be, you know, beans and, you know, so a lot of, you know, some cultural differences in foods that they eat, but people bring them in and we set them on a table. And, you know, like I'll bring in stuff like my daughter all of a sudden likes Kraft macaroni and cheese. I buy a whole case. All of a sudden she doesn't like it. Yeah, so we take that stuff in, but what I know this might sound weird, but I also I'll bring stuff in and sit down on the food table, and I will also take sometimes something small from the table, just to sort of normalize that. I'm almost embarrassed to say that, but it's for a purpose. Like, hey, sometimes we all need something. Yeah, yeah. Yes.
You're able to make that environment safe for them to be able to be comfortable in taking that. I'm gonna walk the mic back this way. Laura, did you want to say that question first? Because I know there was a hand raised in the chat.
Yeah, okay, so there is a comment from one of our virtual attendees. So there's a checklist that they will give to their student. I think very similar to your onboarding of students, letting them know of various resources. But in this case, it's a checklist that students will fill out. And based on what that feedback is they're getting from the student on their needs, they're then connected to the various community and resources. So yes, it's a list of different needs. So babysitting, housing, those types.
And one quick thing I'm going to say where I'm going back here, I'm just hand the mic and pass it. I really am. When Harris County was talking, you even talked about after we give them these services, we give them these resources, we tell them, all right, now don't you miss more than 3 classes. In Palm Beach, Florida, they actually had this idea, we came together of being, and there's a whole course on it, but it's being a gentle demander or a warm demander. You all have heard that. Oh, I love that you all have already heard this. And that is, I am not going to lower my expectations, but you know what I'll do? I'll differentiate them.
Because I got the notification last evening. One of the things going on in our community, we had noticed, absenteeism is rampant. And one of the reasons is because children are not clean and they're being bullied because they don't have access to laundry services. So what we did, one of my organizations, we raised money and put a washer dryer in one of the schools. And we put it in the special needs class. So we're teaching skills, but it's then open to other students. So I was like, well, that's nice, but I don't like to do that fundraising stuff. I wrote a grant quietly. I didn't tell them, got notified. Schools, I'll let them know when I get home on Friday. So every high school in our community will have a washer dryer plus an elementary school. So, but I'll let them know about the money when I get home.
My name's Jackie. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and I actually transitioned from 12 years of adult ed into a youth build program. So I serve specifically 16 to 24-year-olds. There are a lot of resources for 16 to 24-year-olds. I know that was always a vein of adult ed's existence, that the kids get so much more. But we partner in Columbus with a community organization that literally will provide all their wraparound services for them. So every student that comes to us, we immediately register them for impact, and then they get county funds called Achieve More and Prosper that can help them if since we're a youth build, we do construction, it'll buy tool belts for them. It'll buy the boots for them. If they need transportation, if they need a driver's license, it will pay for their driving course. It will help them with a down payment on a car. And their only requirement, other than being either low income, below grade, 2 grades below grade level, all of our students are going to meet that anyway. Right. Is that they meet with their person, not even meet, connect with their person, their AMP coach once a month, and the AMP coach comes to us. So all they have to do is walk by and say hi to keep their status. So it's been a lifesaver for us because it helps them get those needs met so they can attend class. And
y'all are making my heart pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter.
So I just wanted to add, healthcare is really big for our ESL students and for our regular students who can't afford it. And this is on one of our checklists is healthcare, which includes vision and dental. And so we partner with community centers and also with somebody that's really integrated with Marketplace. It's not out there to just an insurance agent that just makes off, signing people up, but has a plethora of the best doctors or the best dental, surgeon that will actually provide that free community dental. That's really big. Vision. The students come to your class, and some of our ESL students or even regular students can't even afford reading glasses. So what we used to do, I used to go to Dollar Tree and buy them. And then after partnering up with Miss Donna, she was like, no, 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 no. We will make sure they get insured because they do qualify. 90% of our population do qualify. Another thing I want to talk about the form at the onset. Before they even come into registration orientation, we give them that one sheet, and very simple, and it's in several different languages. So we have to make sure that we're also eradicating that language barrier, that literacy barrier. So get a good census of, you know your programs, you know the type of students you're dealing with, you know your demographics. We have from not just Hispanic students, but we have, Asian students. We have students as far as like, from Russia, and we have to make sure that they're able to understand. This is before that registration piece, because that's required by the state of Texas that we do all of this. It's like 4 pages. Well, we don't want to work on that. We want to make sure that we're meeting their needs first and foremost. We have our insurance people there, not insurance, our healthcare people there. We have our community partners there. They're telling them, so they're building relational trust with our students, because students don't go and tell their problems because that's just how they're raised culturally. I mean, I'm originally from Hawaii. I wouldn't even tell you that I'm having a problem with gas at home and I'm counting pennies. But that's the realistic era of what and how we are actually working with students so that we can adapt and walk their walk. But I just wanted to add on to that.
So I work at Catholic Charities, so a lot of our students have their needs met by things that we do have at Catholic Charities, but not all of the times we don't always have services to meet their needs.
Right.
So one thing that we've done is the case managers have created a list of resources, of outside resources, of not partnerships that we already have, because sometimes each case manager is doing research for their specific clients. And so then they find these resources and then we put it on a shared document that everyone can access. So if like their client is having a need that we don't meet or we don't have a partner for, it's already on this list that we can look and address and find and work with. Huh? I'm in Dallas.
Two things. I don't know if you all know, but in what year was that? 2015, Harris County, aka Houston, surpassed even New York City as the most diverse city per capita, their population per capita, the most diverse city, the most diverse population. Last I checked, I know pre-pandemic, they still held the #1 spot over New York, over LA. Harris County has the most diversity. The second thing, the way y'all are sharing, you make me feel like I'm preaching to the choir. Okay, I'm gonna have to find other attendees that aren't already doing all these things and bring them in, because you all are doing the things. You all are all differentiating. You all are already meeting these challenges head on. You're acknowledging them, you're meeting them, and then you're making that layer of accessibility happen. One of the things that all of you just shared with me and really goes into this, we differentiate instruction to honor the reality of the students we teach. For those of you who attended my other session, you'll know this was something I did in every single session, with every single student. We used to sit down, and one of the first things we did before I even gave them anything, little sheet of paper, expected reality versus your current reality. How are you living now versus what do you want to get to? Because I know, and I said this just yesterday, just like me, you all have had those students who walk in and they say, I'm going to come in, I'm going to get my GED in 3 weeks, and then 3 weeks later, I'm going to have a 6-figure job. TikTok taught me. TikTok said so, right? I went to TikTok Academy before I came here. And I used to remind them, listen, I love that your confidence is on 100, but the skills are on 0, sis. Like, come on, we gotta do something here. We gotta figure out how to go from this current reality to this expected reality. And that's why we differentiate instruction, to honor the reality of what they're facing. I love that she said, I go and grab something off the table first, because the reality is, a lot of the times it's not just pride culturally that, oh, I'm not gonna go take from that table because it's because I've had needs before and no one ever cared. I've had this struggle before, no one ever listened, so why should I share now? What's anyone gonna do about it? We do this, we differentiate in instruction, and hearing you all, you don't all just differentiate your instruction. You all are differentiating your programs, your onboarding, your delivery of services. This goes far beyond instruction, and I really feel like I'm gonna skip through this pretty quickly because you already know what it looks like. I'm hearing from you all, I see the evidences of differentiation. But for those who aren't quite familiar, or you like a little visual to see, when we're breaking down differentiation, the three things that we typically look at for instruction's sake is the content, what they're learning, the process, how are they learning, and then lastly, the outcome. How are we measuring it? How are those students showing what they've learned? How are we evidencing this? One of the things that we had, Miss Chicago, I shouldn't call you Miss Chicago, but I remember Chicago. I'm not gonna forget. Miss Chicago shared with us. She was talking about students' different learning styles. And one of the things that Jen and I both had to kind of talk about in our PLC and the Mind Folks is your learning style actually changes based on what you're learning. So there are some subjects and content, absolutely. I love to learn. I like to just sit back and watch. There are podcasts I like to listen to when I'm thinking about my parenting style. I just want to hear somebody talk. But I'm gonna tell you what, right now, I'm going to South Carolina line dancing, and I'm putting my boots on the ground and I'm getting to do it. I'm gonna get with you after the session. I'll get with you after the session. I am so glad everyone in Zoom can't see me right now, but maybe that's what Laura's holding the phone. Oh, good. But we really do hone in on these three things when we're really thinking about the differentiation of instruction. And this thing is being kind of clunky about how it's moving forward. So how do we do it? This model, what you're seeing here, is based off of our 3D differentiation guide. And I do apologize, we ran out of them. We have tons of these anchors and overcoming adult challenges that I will hand out, but we actually wrote a guide. The PLC that I keep referring to was 3 years ago. There's a professional learning community. I was a part of it. I was a participant. And we came together and took on, what does differentiation look like in adult education? How can we make it work? And what we came up with is the first, you all have already talked about it, discovering it, acknowledging what students' needs are. After that, designing instruction and program goals or program processes that meet those needs. And then lastly, doing it, implementing it. Whatever we discovered, whatever we acknowledged and recognized that needed to be happen, then we started designing it based on what we saw or see that students needed. And lastly, we implemented it. It seems like it's this huge beast when we're first looking at it, but when you're able to break it down and even hear how others have broken it down, it really can be simplified into, let's look for what the problem is, let's discover what's going on. After we've established what the problem is, let's figure out a solution. Is this going to need this person? Is it going to need stakeholders? There's going to be outside resources that we don't currently have. Do we need to call up Harris County and get their connection to T-Mobile and figure out what's going on to get some of these electronics in here? And then you do it. Write up the plan and you actually enact it. As I stated, I'm gonna skip through these this next part pretty quickly. One of the quotes you will hear me say in every single session that I ever do: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. The reason I won't spend too much time here is you all care, and I can tell it. I can absolutely tell it. And we've already heard students are not going to share their needs with you if they feel like you're not a safe space. If you're not taking something off the table first, they're not going to feel empowered to come take something off the table as well. And I know as educators, we all do care. That's why we're here. It ain't for the money. I know that we are here because we truly have this heart of servitude, and our students need to be able to understand that. That happens when we differentiate, when we recognize and acknowledge and honor their reality and say, I know that you can't learn right now because you're hungry, or I know you can't come to class because that car broke down, the motor went out. After you bought it with your tax refunds, you went on and got a cash lot car, didn't have a mechanic to look at you with it, and 90 days later, it's done. And now you feel defeated back at square one. They're not going to share any of that with you if they don't feel like you care. But as I'm already hearing from you all, you're differentiating in your onboarding already. So this won't be an issue at all. So in the Discover, you evaluate students' needs. This is things you all are already doing, which is why I'm kind of speeding through. And again, my slide deck will be available. So if you're wanting to use this in your classroom, your program, do so. But in discovering the students' needs, you all have already heard how folks are doing that in the field. We've had a lot of great shares in getting to know their interests, actually getting to know their student. Goal setting, expected reality versus current reality, learning about their learning styles, different learning styles, their likes and dislikes. Again, one of the things that I think that Jen shared yesterday that was so powerful was talking about literacy scores. They had two groups of students. They had a passage on baseball. And they realized very quickly, remember, right? They realized very quickly the students who knew nothing about baseball but typically scored very high, they didn't score well at all. Versus the students who were typically low performers but watched a lot of baseball, they scored really well. Why? Because that was tied to their likes and dislikes. When you're even delivering your instruction or thinking about your program design, if you're in a community like am in Central Virginia and everybody loves a good cow sighting and a rodeo, can you believe I'm not in Texas still the way I'm talking? Then we knew one of the things that we could do as a community event, and yes, this actually happened, we set up some mutton busting for the kids. If you don't know what mutton busting is, you got something to Google this afternoon and have yourself a good time. We set up a mutton busting just night. And I mean, the amount of our students that came out and brought their kids, especially for those who didn't know what it was, we literally used that as a night just to have fun. But at the end, we started sharing with students about, okay, our upcoming class is this and this. And I mean, the amount of folks that we got in just because they wanted to see kids ride on sheeps were incredible. Sheeps are sheep, sheep, sheep. And then, of course, as always, that formal and informal assessment, knowing their depths of knowledge, of course, is absolutely important, and knowing where their starting points are and meeting them where they are. After we discover, as I mentioned, that's when we start designing. We start designing exactly this. I think my internet might start acting up here. Yeah, that's okay. Make sure we're already predicting the students' needs. We're setting it up in classroom, that you have the materials and resources that you need, and that you're always planning. One of the things that, and I think it might be on the next screen, but that pre-observation and post-observation, I always like to hone in on. I'm not talking about a classroom observation. I'm not talking about a visit of someone coming and walking around your room. I'm talking about, remember, we're discovering needs first. We're seeing, we're observing what's going on, what our students need. Are you coming back and reflecting later and going, okay, did we actually meet this student's needs? What's next? Did this resource work, or was it a flop? Was this a community stakeholder that said, oh yeah, I've got you, I'm gonna bring 100 packs of snacks. And then I realized 30 days later, I still haven't heard from them. My kids are still hungry. Yes, I call them my kids because when they're with me, I'm Mama B, okay? But these are what I mean when I say post-observation. We are struggling here with the click. I think it might be doing that wonky internet thing again because it's not liking me to move forward right now. Okay, we just talked about circling back. So I value your time, and I always try to get you out here about 5 minutes early. So we only have about a few more slides to go. Stand in front of the mic before I get fussed at. I see it was coming. And then this actually comes from, I want to make sure that I give Miss Verna Myers her credit here. So as you can see, there's my credit there, making sure that if you want, you feel free to look up Verna Myers' actual quote, because this is me expanding on her quote, and it's, I have an idea for a party. We are going away from DEI so that I don't get anyone in trouble, but we are still going to talk about an idea, because here's what I will say, and this is what I'll say. Regardless of what policy stands, I have been in front of teachers again and again, and educators and teachers, because those are two separate things. Anybody can teach, not everybody's an educator. Time and time again, they're going to do what they got to do, regardless of what the policy says. Okay. So that's why we're not going to walk away from idea. And I have an idea for a dance party. And of course, if you don't know what that idea stands for, it's inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. And I really like Verna Myers because that's the start of her quote there. And if you can see, diversity is being invited to the party. Diversity is just inviting everyone, making sure you're inviting everybody. Inclusivity is making sure, did you ask everyone to dance? Did you make sure you included and walked up to them individually and said, hey, I'd love for you to come out onto this dance floor with me? What about equity? Are there different kinds of music for everyone to dance to? Because I'm gonna tell you now, you put on some bluegrass and I'm gonna look at you crazy. But you put on some good old banjo playing, which is very different from bluegrass, I'm gonna tap my foot. Real country, I'm gonna get into it. Take me to the old Opry anytime, I'm gonna have a good time. And then lastly, accessibility. Did you build a dance floor that everyone could get to? Do you have a ramp there? Is it too far away for others? Was there a little area with low lighting and headphones for those who may have sensory issues and don't want to hear the music very loudly? When we differentiate, we're thinking about all of these things. And I'm thinking about this idea that we have for a dance party, that everyone's there, everyone's having a good time, and there's truly something there for everyone. As you go through, you're going to see there's a wealth of resources for from essential education. The main one that I've actually talked through today is very intentionally in the middle. That's that 3D differentiation guide. A lot of the processes and even some of the lists and things that you've seen on the screen are in that guide. Feel free to download it. Again, this deck will be available. You can log into. I'm also going to give you my card on the way out. So if you just want me to email it to you, I'd love to do that as well. But there's other guides that we also have. I heard someone tell you something about retention is important to them. Please make sure you're grabbing one of these retention guides on your way out. Grab 3 of them so you can hand them to the other teachers that couldn't attend. We also have a digital literacy guide, the distance ed guide, and the mastery learning guide, all available as great resources. Additionally, inside of our program, if you are looking for a program that already has integrated differentiation, Essential Ed is it. I will be honest in saying it took a lot for them to get me out of the classroom. I'm still in it, matter of fact, because Virginia, unlike anywhere else, is having a teacher shortage. And so I'm still in the classroom part-time. But the reason that I was comfortable making that leap from leaving my very public government-funded classroom and coming to a private company is because we believe in what we do. We have a passion for serving our learners. We have a passion for serving you as you all serve others. And we do offer that contextualized instruction, real world scenarios that are honoring your students' reality. We also have multi-sensory features. One of my favorites is that screen reader, because a lot of times folks don't understand they can't learn if they can't read. And how helpful is it to have someone reading that to you as you're learning to read along? And then lots of reading support, even up all the way until we have a literacy program that's called Mind Play. This professional development button, I would love for you to explore it. We have the tweeds, free. If you attend them, you get the certificate. If you can't attend, still click the button, you get the recording, you watch the recording, you still get the certificate. Those are continuing education credits. Take advantage of it. Going to our tweeds, coming to our professional development sessions, and then at any time, if one of your directors, or if you are the director, invite us out to have a professional development. We would love to serve you. And the last thing I say in every session, every time, thank you. You all too on Zoom, but you all could have chosen to be anywhere, doing anything at 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. And you came here with me. And thank you.